it is too rigid, I believe, and the code of ethics should be more flexible and adapted to the situation in various organizations. But on the first line of this law, they said this is a professional code for for improving the professional activity of civil servants. So from the first line, they forgot, apparently, the main idea that they proposed to have a code of ethics. And if we go on the content of the document, we'll find very few ethical aspects. I don't know, I counted how many times the word moral and ethics appears there, and the situation is critical. So, my point of view is that behind this innocent aspect, the confusion, the conceptual confusion, there is a reason of that. There is the interest to cover the ethical approach in organizations with such kind of products which are half ethical, half non-ethical, and which are called codes of conduct, for instance, or business codes in business, or they have a lot of other names. So this is a mixture of rules which are rules of quality, rules of efficiency, some moral rules, well, classical, traditional moral rules, but the idea of code of ethics is lost. Well, looking at this project of code of ethics, I believe that it has the same shortcomings. I sent you, I think, and I mentioned on the text the objections I have to it. I don't want to say that you intended to forget the code of ethics, although you propose yourself to write down a code of ethics. But looking at all the documents I received, I guess why, if you and some others are so focused on building a code of ethics, 2/3 of the organizations of this type which I learned about do not intend to have codes of ethics. They have only, I don't know, codes. The code of this profession. What kind of code? It does not result from the text, and they are not code of ethics. They do not contain the word ethics. 2/3 of the documents which I received. Well, of course, there is a difficulty, a conceptual difficulty perhaps here, but this is a more general difficulty of surrounding, let's say, the field of ethics. How do you distinguish in the activities of an organization what's ethical and what is not? This is a difficult question, but well, and at this question people answer in various ways. For instance, some are grounding the ethics codes on various ethical theories. There are ethics codes which are based on Kantianism, on utilitarianism, and so on. Well, I believe that this is a way of determining this kind of grounding the code of ethics on an ethical framework or on an ethical theory. It is a way of delimiting, surrounding the sphere of morality. I propose, for instance, to think at the possibility of grounding an ethical code on principles. Principles is not a theory, but is an ethical framework, one says, so a methodological instrument which could be used in various fields. It was initiated in the field of bioethics, but it could be used not only there. If we adopt this point of view and the experience gathered in this field of principles, a code of ethics is a complex structure. So not only a system of rules, of obligations and of forbearances. It is a system of principles which should be chosen in an adequate way to the domain in which we set up the code. Then there are rules, moral rules, which should be derived from these principles, ethical principles. You will ask me, what are ethical principles? Which are that, and why are those and not others? I think that there is an experience, a practical experience in each field, and there is a theoretical experience in the Western culture about the ethical principles. And there is an agreement about the list of ethical principles our Western culture is based on. So we can start, empirically speaking, from such we can start from such an empirical basis if we don't have something better. But rules, then not only rules, but values, social values. And I believe that we have to think to combine in a way the values with the principles. For instance, the Code of Ethics of the Universities, which was set up for the first time with here in CNCPA, is a code based on values. I believe that this can, and it is inside the document, it is transposed in principles in a way or in a set of rules. But we don't have to distinguish a value statement from a set of principles, because the principles are covering and are protecting these kind of values. But another entity which is very important here is virtues, individual virtues of persons, which are the personnel of that organization. I believe that not only the respect of rules is important in ethics, but the respect of rules which are internalized by the people, and people react from their own will, let's say, in agreement with rules. And we may add some other ingredients to an ethical code. I think that an ethical code has to contain also some indications concerning the methods of decision making which are used or acceptable from those point of view, from the point of view of that code, the dilemmas, the solution of dilemmas, how is obtained using such methods of decision making, and some other ingredients. I don't insist. So I believe that we can arrive at a concept, at a workable and useful concept of ethical code. There is that problem. If an ethical code should be imposed by penalties of in a way or another, this is also debatable. I believe that the majority say yes, because otherwise it is not efficient. So you can write down a code and it will be dead if you take it in your pocket, let's say. So to be alive, it should be imposed in a way or in another. Of course, there are moral ways of imposing it, not only the kind of juridical sanctions, let's say, but And these are not very much exploited, used in practice. But the idea is that it should not be optional. If it is optional, it will happen what we live in our faculty when we had to decide on using the code of the university, the ethical code of the university, to decide a sanction. So the firing of a student who committed plagiarism. And of course, people read in the council the article of the code which referred to this, and I asked them to read Article 11. Article 11 said, this code is optional. And then, if it is optional, so we have to look in another way for being able to apply a sanction. So, not to speak about, on another article, the code mentions the possibility of applying sanctions if it is not respected. So it is also a little bit contradictory. Another aspect which is very interesting and the characteristic of the ethical codes is that the ethical code, which is not a quality assurance code, it is another kind of code. So this is a code in which you should not, or an organization should not promote its interests. It should promote the interests of all the stakeholders, which are treated as equal actors on a kind of activity in which that organization is involved, in a business. So this principle of impartiality is another striking idea, which perhaps is difficult to assimilate by people. In any case, my main idea here, I think, is that I don't understand why people are so reluctant to the idea of ethical code, as a matter of fact. Although everybody is saying that morality is something which should be taken into consideration, as a matter of fact, we are avoiding as much as we can the field of morality. And not only we, the situation is similar in the Western countries. A doctoral student of mine was in Rotterdam and worked with Mual Kaptein, who is a specialist and the practitioner of the ethics management. And she found out there that they had to, or they decided not to use the word ethical anymore because this was a barrier in the success of their business with such kind of products. He is a consultant, among others, in such kind of field. And they're using the word integrity, which is more abstract perhaps and say almost nothing to the layman. But this is a rule. They officially abandon the word ethical not to scare people.
Thank you for these thoughts about what it should be at the end of the story, if it's absolutely necessary to be something. I would like a bit to share with you, because I think it's a very good opportunity and it's coming very nice, smoothly, I would say,